Hey there, this is KP with Coronavirus Diaries, a channel dedicated to the documentation of a world under lockdown. Today I'm going to continue my fact-checking series that I began a couple weeks ago, and it's going to be kind of a short video, but for the sake of completion and for continuity, I'm going to talk about light today, UV light to be exact. Before I get to that, I just want to thank our over 400 followers on Twitter. We seem to be getting a little bit of a following over there in the Twitterverse, and we appreciate you checking us out from over there. And also our subscribers here on YouTube, of course. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so that we can notify you when we have a new video up. So let's talk about this. There have been some stories in the news. I went back as far as May when we were talking about using UV light to kill off this virus. UV, of course, meaning ultraviolet. Now, first off, before we get into this, there are three types of ultraviolet light that we get from the sun. Two of those, ultraviolet A and ultraviolet B, are not that harmful to us. They're the ones that do cause sunburn and they do cause aging in our skin. But ultraviolet C is held back by the ozone layer, and that is the really dangerous one that would basically burn us alive or cause a lot of cancer. So ultraviolet C just so happens to be the type of ultraviolet light that they use to kill off viruses in the research they've done. Ultraviolet A and ultraviolet B aren't powerful enough. Ultraviolet C will kill it. Looks like they hold it over the viruses for about 15 minutes. And after around 15 minutes of exposure, SARS at least, and MERS, and another study I read, died off. And they're also doing quite a bit of research into killing off the flu virus using UV light even before COVID-19 came on the scene, or I should say SARS-CoV-2. Now, as we went on, they started talking about this dangerous UVC light, ultraviolet C light, and the reason it's dangerous is because of its frequency. It has a wavelength of 254 nanometers. Now there's another type of UV light called far UVC that they've been talking about, and this safely kills off the coronavirus. It actually kills these off without affecting our cells, and that's because it has a wavelength of 222 nanometers, and therefore it doesn't penetrate our cells deep enough to cause cancer, to cause any kind of havoc. And this particular story was from June. And from the exact same day, June 24th, they were also talking about this far UVC light, as you can see, and comparing the 254 nanometers of typical general ultraviolet C versus the far UVC light, which is between 207 and 222 nanometers. And they've had a lot of success with this. And then I noticed that as we got into July, this is from July 8th, this news story talks about how UV light kills off coronavirus, but there are a lot of risks involved and that it can be very harmful to us. And obviously, either they don't know about it or just didn't report it, but they don't mention far UVC at all. They don't mention the 254 nanometers versus 222. They only focus on the harmful stuff that makes it sound like there isn't technology in place that could do this safely. As we move on into another one from July, this is actually from only 11 days ago, it continues on about how the UV light does kill the coronavirus. It mentions far UVC at one point, but barely. And then it continues on and talks about how UV 254 is dangerous to us. It's very hard on our cells. It's very hard on our eyes, actually. It causes problems in our eyesight. This one's talking a little bit more about new interest in using ultraviolet light. Most of these later ones, for some reason, don't really mention far UVC. It was mentioned a little bit in June on exactly the same day, and then after that, all the stories, they barely mention it. They just basically talk about how exposure to this type of light can be harmful to people, can cause cancer, can cause tumors, can cause problems with our eyesight. So I just find that kind of interesting. It does look hopeful if we listen to the scientists who are talking about 222 nanometers, talking about far UVC light, but you notice that these come from scientific reports, whereas these don't. So I'm kind of curious, I think. From what it looks like, though, I think that we're going to have the technology to be able to kill off not only this, but probably a lot of different viruses that come down the pipe using this new technology of far UVC light. They have to do more research on it, of course. The technology is a little expensive right now, so hopefully that'll come down in cost and we'll be able to implement it. Aside from that, I really don't have a whole lot more to tell you at this point. I think it's a little curious that it seemed kind of hopeful in June, and then all of a sudden now they're not really reporting on it for some reason. So I'm going to look a little further into that. Maybe we'll have a different answer about that in a month or two. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already, or share this to anybody who you think would be interested in what we have to say. Take care out there, and God bless. This is KP signing off.